Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Easy Conversations, a podcast about having easy conversations. I'm your host, Furkan Dandia. In this week's episode, I sit down with a fine gentleman from the Man2Man Podcast based in the UK. We talk about negative thought patterns and how they impact our lives. We also get into some tips and tricks on how to navigate through negative thought patterns and how to build behavior that can allow you to not fall into that trap. I also want to make a correction where in the podcast, I use the term muscle memory, which I've recently found out through the Huberman Lab podcast that it's not actual muscle memory, it's neuronal memory that takes place when we change our behavior patterns. I hope you can get a lot out of this episode, and if at the end you could leave a 5-star review, I would truly appreciate it. Gentlemen, thanks for joining the podcast today. Super grateful for you guys coming on here, taking the time and sharing the message. And I know we kind of already talked about the goal of our podcast and, you know, the message we're trying to share and normalize some of the conversations. So I wanted to give you both an opportunity to introduce yourself and touch a little bit on, you know, your podcast as well. I feel like there's a lot of similarities in terms of the work we're doing. So I'll just hand it over to you guys first, and then we'll get into some of the topics we wanted to touch on today.
Yeah, thank you for having us. My name is Tactical, and I have a Man2Man podcast, which is basically a podcast that discuss a lot of issues. You could say it's a man-to-man thing, but we're here to help everyone. And, you know, we talk about how to uplifting people, how to help people through mental health, how to uplift their mind, how to uplift their body, how to go for their goals, how to succeed with their goals. And, you know, my history, you know, I have a quite esoteric history in a sense. I've studied many esoteric subjects and stuff like that, but now I'm in a path of combining the esoteric studies that I have combined with the mind and subconscious mind and other things that I've come across to learn. And I'm currently actually writing a book, which is to do with relationships. Haven't finished it. I'm halfway through that. And I'm just happy to be here, happy to be talking on your podcast, and very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Super excited. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about your book at some point as well.
Yeah, it's called The Philosophy of Understanding Relationships, because I believe there is a philosophy in everything, and there's also a philosophy with relationships. And I once it's released, I delve very deep into it, and so hopefully when it's ready, I'll share it with yourself and the rest of the world.
For sure. Yeah. And Vito, over to you.
Over to me. Thank you. My name is Vito Perkins. I'm from London. Glad to be on your show. My story is obviously Tactical started his podcast, and he was doing a variety of subjects on it. And then he invited me on to speak about the subject of the mind and subconscious mind. And it was a big hit. We had a lot of people saying they want part 2. So I came on for part 2. And then I'm joining Tactical now on another podcast with yourself. So I'm happy to be here. Bit of background about me. About 3-4 years ago, I was introduced to a mentor, and he took me in and then introduced me to a small organization. And in that organization, they taught me lots of books, lots of information, lots of material to study. And then from there, it just literally changed my life. I literally committed a lot of my time studying the mind, subconscious mind, and why people do things that they don't want to do, and they're not doing things that they want to do, because that was the question that I had. So I went searching for the answer. Why am I not doing what I want to do? And why do I continue doing what I don't want to do? So then that journey led me here, and it led me through a lot of books, and I can't wait to start talking about it. My goal now, because I've reached the level of connecting with people, and I can literally teach people how to change. So my goal now is to promote change in people from all around the world. Anyone I speak to, I want to promote positive change in them. So I hope I can do that here.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I'm super excited. As I mentioned to you guys, I love talking about this kind of stuff. I've been nerding out for a couple of years now and studying psychology. I think there's a lot of stuff we can touch on today. I don't even know if we'll have enough time when you start talking about the subconscious mind and, neuroplasticity and some childhood trauma. Like, it's all interconnected. So, if you guys are ready, let's just dive into it. And
yeah, sure.
I guess starting right off the bat, I mean, Vito, you touched on one thing about why people do certain things and why they don't do certain things, and often not having that level of control or awareness. And I mean, I kind of have my own perspective on it, but I want to hear your thoughts first about why is it such a blocker for people when they know they're doing, whether it's maladaptive coping mechanisms or certain behaviors. What is limiting them from making that change or taking action?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's the question that led me on my path to helping people. Mm-hmm. So I've had the same thinking habits that I feel a lot of people are stuck with and they don't know how to get out of, like, anxiety, stress, pessimistic predictions about the future. Something's happened, they've got evidence in their life that suggests, something negative is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Let's say, they got an unexpected bill, they can't pay it, it's the end of the month is coming, they're going to get kicked out their house if they don't. It's going to be a big ripple effect if they do not find the answers to their questions, and they don't have the answers. So they start worrying, they start panicking. So my study is, okay, where does this worry and panic, and with worry and doubt, where does it stem from, mm-hmm. and where does it lead to? So I'll give you a little model that what we teach in our organization, and it starts with a conscious mind. So that person has a conscious decision to think positive thought or think a negative thought. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then let's say, for example, they choose to think a negative thought, which is, worry and doubt. The bills come in, unexpected bill, they don't know how they're going to pay it. They're worrying about it, they're doubting about it. And that's at a conscious level. Well, what some people don't know from a biological standpoint, what happens when they do that worry and doubt from the conscious level, it leads that conscious idea of worry and doubting gets impressed into their subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. So now it's impressed in their subconscious. So first you're just worrying and doubting about a situation, and it's got to a point you've got so emotionally on board with that worry and doubt that you've impressed that idea into your subconscious. Now, worry and doubt, when it's impressed into the subconscious, it manifests into fear. So they had worry and doubt. Now, without them realizing, because this is happening like at a subconscious level. So they're worrying about a situation, and all of a sudden, it's manifested into the subconscious as fear. Mm-hmm. Now, any idea that people have, whether it's like negative or positive, in their conscious mind gets pushed into their subconscious mind. Then any idea in your subconscious mind, the only way out it gets expressed is through the body. That's the only instrument that expresses your idea. So that worry and doubt manifests into fear in the subconscious, and then that fear gets expressed through the body. So how does the body express fear? Well, it's anxiety. The body's causing anxiety. And the problem with anxiety is it's not expressed in the body, it's suppressed. Mm-hmm. So they're suppressing all that negative energy, all the worry that I don't know what I'm going to do, I don't know what I'm going to do, I've got this to do, I've got to go here, I've got work, my manager's upset with me, I'm arguing with my boyfriend, girlfriend, I've got family issues, I've got all of this. And what they're not knowing they're doing, they're activating what is called, I think people know, the stress response, the fight or flight mechanism, sympathetic nervous system. So people know what that is, when you're about to fight, or if you get a quick shock, imagine you see like a lion in front of you, your body's going to jump. If someone shouts at you, you suddenly jump. And that's the fight or flight response. So what they don't understand, when they're worrying and doubting about the situation, whatever it is, they're causing that response to happen within their body. And when that response happens, what's happening with the body is it's knocked out of chemical balance. And that causes, what happens at that point then? Well, your body was normal, the chemicals in your body were normal, and then all of a sudden you're panicking, you're worrying about something, and then automatically you're having the stress response, you're having the fight or flight response. And then what happens, they get so addicted to that feeling, that rush of chemicals, because they think it's normal, you know, oh, I should worry about this, I think I should worry about this. And they do it for so long, you do that for 30 years, you know, just thinking about your worries, thinking about it, and then not thinking about it, worrying. And then the body recognizes that response and it becomes a habit. It becomes a habitual thought pattern. So then what happens, your body just turns out has a panic attack without you even knowing. You can't even control it because you've been programming your body to them chemical reactions so much that the body's recognized it so consistently over 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. And then it just, bang, body just shuts down. And they're like, what happened? You know, they don't even know what happens. The heart's racing. And that's just a small way of looking at it that we do. So
yeah, and I think you know, you touched on a few things there, and I guess the chemical imbalance, for people that aren't aware, you know, I'm sure people have heard parts of it, but it's really your body's just pumping out cortisol, right?
It's pumped out cortisol, yes.
Yeah, and a lot of doctors or experts have kind of related it to almost like cocaine. It's like taking a hit of cocaine and your body just, and that's where the addictive nature comes from, because you're just getting this high every time your body's pumping cortisol, and you almost crave it subconsciously.
Yep. Yeah, no, they do, but what they don't understand from a biological standpoint, when they're doing that, they think it's fine. They're craving this chemical because it's making them feel, it's just making them feel better than what they were feeling before, you know? So they think it's fine to have this cortisol run through your body, but it's actually causing long-term damage internally, because that energy, you know, that's the fight or flight response. That's an emergency response that you're supposed to use only if you're in danger. But because of our frontal lobe, because the human beings got such an advanced frontal lobe, we can make imagination more real than actually reality. So the body thinks it's under attack, but really he's not under attack, you know. The guy's just panicking because, you know, he's going to his in-laws' house and he hates his in-laws and he's got to sit there for 4 hours. So he's just panicking. The body's thinking, wait, there's an external threat, you know, so it's panicking, but it's not. There's no threat. It's just him about sitting at dinner for 4 hours with his in-laws that he don't like and probably going to start an argument with. So he's preparing the body. So that when they're having that cortisol run through their body, you know, that energy is getting sucked from somewhere. You know, they're creating energy from doing it, and it's getting sucked from their immune system. It's getting sucked from their respirational system, their digestive system. All that energy is moving from your immune system and heading to your extremities because it's saying there's an external threat. You need to defend yourself.
Right.
So it's taxing parts of the body without them knowing. This is at a biological level. It's like the chemical changes. And if they do that enough times, it causes disease. It causes stress. It causes panic attacks. It causes, some scientific studies relate it to causes cancer. It causes them to get ill because their immune system can't function because its energy is getting sucked away to the extremities because it thinks it's under an emergency mode, when really nothing's happening. But the guy's just worrying about, you know, an external a situation that's not yet happened. And it's very fascinating.
Yeah, and I've talked about that a little bit. I think, you know, the flight and flight response is something from an evolutionary standpoint. You know, you look at our ancestors, they needed that because they were in real danger, right? So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
from an
thanks.
evolutionary standpoint, that's been passed on to us. And I think when you talk about the frontal lobes, and I'm not an expert in this field, but
Yeah,
based
of
on
course. Yeah,
based on what I've understood is your
yeah,
amygdala is basically now activated anytime you perceive a dangerous situation, and it automatically kicks in because it recognizes similar patterns to threat, and your frontal lobes don't get activated and actually process the situation. And I think where I'm trying to go with this is you can actually, if you actively work through it, you can reprogram your brain to have that pausing effect and review every threat almost, and
yeah,
try to understand,
yeah.
okay, well, this is not a real threat. In the example you used, me going to my in-laws, yes, it is an uncomfortable situation, but it is not a real threat where I
It's
need
not a
to
real threat. Yeah,
activate my fight or flight response.
Exactly. I would like to say also with that fight and flight response, the key for me for overcoming, anything on that level, when your body goes into stress mode, when the cortisol start kicking in, you have, there's a thing, is tension. Your body is coming under tension, and that then affects the mind, and you have to actually find ways to relax in the tension. Now, what I've come across techniques in relaxing in the tension, in relaxing in stressful moments that you feel uncomfortable, awkward, or even when you are preempting it, as you said, with the in-laws and everything, is through firstly is you have to reconnect with your body, and ways to reconnect with your body, to feel your body. Like it's small subtle techniques to feel your body. So let's say, for example, you're feeling under stress, and sometimes obviously it's not conscious, sometimes it's unconscious, subconscious, where we actually don't know it's happening. So some people experience it in a sense where they're not even aware of it, or they don't have any control of it. But that's one that's a certain different type of stress. But when you're aware that you're feeling this uncomfort, you have to actually feel your legs. You have to feel your legs on the ground. I know it sounds very like, what do you mean feel your legs? But you're actually, because when people have this tension, you can see it in their body. Their body starts moving in a different type of way. They move light. They don't feel solid. They don't feel grounded. And you have to feel more grounded in your body to be able to handle these tense moments and these moments of tension, even to the fight and flight mode. Because if, like, for example, something's happening to you, when you relax in the tension, you're able to think clearly, and you're able to operate and make a conscious decision. But sometimes, our instincts can take over, but the conscious decision still has to be there, and you're able to think clearly, and you're able to respond in a better manner than you would if you wasn't able to relax the tension. And everything grows with tension. There's nothing in this world that doesn't grow with tension. Trees grow with tension, people grow with tension. Tension exists all around us. We have to deal with it constantly. The world is tension in itself. The fact that the earth spins is tension, and dealing with the tension is, you see these people sometimes, go into a board meeting, for example, a high level board meeting, and they walk through, and they seem like the calmest person in the room. Everyone else is stressing and worrying and trying to resolve an issue, and the one who can deal with the tension the best is the one who people normally gravitate to, and people normally seek advice from, because they feel grounded. Their energy is solid. They can feel their own power, so to speak. So it's the relaxation in the tension that is, I believe, is one of the keys to overcoming what we're talking about.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I think it's important to remind people that it's okay to feel stress or tension. You can't avoid that. It's how you respond to it, and finding healthy ways. And grounding is very important, whether it's through breathing exercises, meditating, or just any form of grounding technique can allow you to just calm things down. And that's where I think, I was trying to touch on finding those grounding moments for yourself where your amygdala is not being activated and you're able to process things and threats in a healthy way.
Without a doubt.
No, absolutely. And the key thing, I think some people are not aware of, when people say stressed, I'm stressed, there's different levels of stress, there's different forms of stress. So, there's physical stress, is like if you get an injury, a physical injury, that's a form of stress. There's another form of stress called chemical stress. So your body could be under chemical stress. So you've got a flu, a bacteria, a virus, that's chemical stress. And then you've got emotional stress. And emotional stress is traffic jams, mortgages, single parenting. Can I pay this bill? Am I good enough? Promotion at work. And all of them, no matter what category, whether it's physical, chemical, emotional, they all trigger the fight or flight response. And what the key is, some people are not aware of them three concepts. They just think stress is stress, and that's all it is. There's different levels of stress. If I go to one of my friends in my organization, I said I'm stressed out, automatically he goes, "What's wrong? You got a cold or flu? Is it chemical? Is it emotional, or is it physical?" I'm like, okay, it's emotional. Or what is it? Is it a pessimistic?
But sorry to interrupt, but just to ask you, Vito, isn't all those stresses, don't they correlate with each other? Regardless if it's one that triggers it, doesn't it trigger them all?
No. That's negative. Completely. No. Maybe I wasn't clear in the way I explained it. Sorry. So imagine you actually get hit. Yeah. You activate the fight or flight response. So if you get physically hit, that's called physical stress. Your body's under physical stress because you've been injured, you've been hit. You need to react. You need to be aware of your surroundings or react. So if someone punches you, that's physical stress. Your body's under physical stress. It knocks your body out of balance chemically. So the shock is called shock, right? So then that's physical stress. Now, emotional, chemical stress is you're laying in bed, and then you get a cold. Your chemicals imbalance in your body. So you're stressing out on your heart. You're activating the fight or flight response because you're trying to get better. You're sick. You're like, oh, I'm so sick. Blowing your nose. You're laying in bed. I'm so sick. I need to get better. I feel like I'm going to die. Oh my goodness. Because it's a chemical stress. Does that make sense? So it activates fight or flight response. Now you're talking about emotional stress now. So emotional stress is, someone said they're going to beat you up and they'll see you after school. You're worried about it. You're worried about a future event that's not yet happened. You got a second mortgage and you just lost your job. Yeah, you just lost your job. That's emotional stress. Now you don't know where the next paycheck is coming in. So physical stress, chemical stress, and emotional stress, each three of them activate the stress response. So people not aware of that. And it's a very important key to overcoming it, to be aware of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think what tactical, maybe, I think what was the question maybe was there around emotional stress can also lead to like physical pain.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And sickness, right? And we don't, if you're not, and I think for most people, myself included, when I'm emotionally stressed, I'm not sleeping well, I'm not eating well, I'm not being physically active, and all of that can kind of end up leading to me getting sick, me just feeling physical pain. And I think that's where you had touched on, was having the consistent stress, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, it can lead to like even like serious sickness like cancer or other forms of diseases.
And emotional stress, I mean, a lot of times if you look at it, let's break it down. Okay, why is that person stressed? Now there's certain categories in emotional stress sensors that are triggered. Either they're having regretful reminiscence of the past, something happened to them in the past and they're reliving it. That's okay. So that's one way of they can be activating the stress response. All these negative things happen to them in their life and they think, oh, that branded me. My girlfriend cheated on me 20 years ago. You know, I've got my new girlfriend and I don't trust her because I think, you know, she's going to be like the other one. She can do the same thing as the other one, you know, or they have a pessimistic prediction about the future. I've got a job interview. I need to get it. I need to get it. Oh my goodness, I need to get it. I'm getting nervous. I need to get it. Or they done the interview and they're like, oh my goodness, I don't think I did well. Oh my goodness, am I going to do it? You know, they have, does that make sense? You have a pessimistic prediction about the future, or they're just as expecting a worst case scenario. You know, something's happened that's out of their control. One of their loved ones have gone sick. That activates a stress response. You're worried. So we can deconstruct what is actually causing the stress response. If we, you know, work our way down the chain, we could demystify it. And then from there, we can actually find remedies to help them. Depending on what they're thinking, we can help them, you know. We can really simplify these things and then help them. Okay, you've got, you know, the landlord send you a message saying you've got to leave by the end of this month, or you're calling the bailiffs to kick you out. That's a worrying situation. They're going to be stressed. I'm going to get kicked out. Oh my goodness, they're calling around. No one's going to help me. What's going to happen? You know? And sorry, go on. Yeah.
No. And I think that's very important that you've highlighted that. And I think for people listening, you know, it's not doom and gloom.
It's definitely not.
You can mitigate that. And I guess what I wanted to touch on from, you know, kind of understand from both of you, and there's an aspect of neuroplasticity that comes in here, and wanted to understand what are some things people can do. And I've read of around changing your behavior patterns or the way you respond to stressful situations. Like, you know, for most people, I mean, this is just one way of numbing the stress is alcohol, right? And that doesn't help because you're only adding that chemical imbalance. But what are some healthy ways of dealing with stressors that you may be encountering on a daily basis? Because realistically, you know, bills are a stressful situation for many people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously any type of stress, or, you know, when you're feeling these types of ways, you're out of sync with yourself. You're out of sync. You're not in full connection with who you really are. So when you're not in full connection with who you really are, stress is going to occur because you're not prepared, and you're not doing things that feel natural to you. So I would say, like, one of the things that you can do is, first of all, what needs to be done is self-awareness and self-assessment. And this is the first thing that needs to be done before you could do anything, because until you understand yourself, you're not going to understand what you really want and what you really don't want in your life. And the fact that, you know, because there is no short-term solution in anything really. You know, there's no like quick fix. That's what people think alcohol and drugs are. You know, this isn't a quick fix. This is a thing where, like, you know, if you want to be your best self, if you want to not, you know, because stress is always going to be there. You know, it doesn't just disappear. There's always going to be stress. Ask, you know, any person who's successful, billionaire, entrepreneur, you know, anyone who's successful in their life, there's always going to be stress. You know, but it's how you deal with it. It's how you handle it. And I think the first thing you have to do is understand yourself, because when you understand yourself, you understand what you want to do, what you like, what you don't like, and you're going to go into things that will, you know, you'll do things with your life that you'll feel happy, and you'll make you feel, you know, a bit of, you know, calm, tranquility, so to speak, you know, or you'll do something that will make maybe you'll feel proud of and whatever. And then the stressful scenarios that you do come across won't seem as stressful as they would if you wasn't doing what you should be doing. You know, so the first thing I would say to anyone is, like, you know, have you really assessed yourself? Have you really tried, you know, have you really looked into yourself? Do you really know yourself? And that for me is the key for dealing with stress. That is the key, without any shadow of a doubt. Knowing yourself, assessing yourself, being honest with yourself, you know, whatever help you need, you know, you could have a therapist, you could join, you know, a organization, or you could be listening to us, and you could take something from us, and you could take it from there. Whatever it is, you need to actually be active into doing something that helps you understand yourself. And then when you do that, slowly you can move forward, and these stressful scenario situations won't feel like they normally do.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. That is definitely a way of obviously helping people. I have different techniques because I'm part of an organization. So straight off, if someone's got stress, how can they relieve it? Okay, well, we use technique, called metacognition. So metacognition is a scientific word. All it means is you think about what you're thinking about and you change it. So let's say, for example, because a lot of people activate the stress response because they're worrying about something. So either that it's a insecurity, they're worried that maybe their girlfriend, boyfriend might be cheating on them. So they're trying to search for proof or this, and they think, I don't trust him, I'm going through his phone. I don't trust her, I'm going through her phone, and stuff like that. My ex-boyfriend, my ex-girlfriend, my wife left me before, so this girlfriend here, she's going to do the same. So it's insecurity. Okay, how can we help them with that? Well, the metacognition teaches you, let's say they're having a pessimistic prediction about the future. So let's say they're thinking, the moment I say that, why am I thinking that these thoughts? It separates me from the first thought. Because I'm now the consciousness observing the thought. So then I dismiss it. So I think, oh, silly, it's just a silly thought in my head. I don't pay it any attention. But if I get emotionally on board with that first thought, like, why am I girlfriend cheating on me? Yeah, why? Why is she? Yeah, why? Oh, let me check. Let me do this. I think she is. I'm going to check her phone when she goes to sleep. I'm going to try and grab her thumb when she's asleep and press it on her phone to unlock it. She's always hiding her phone. You see, the thought, because there's a process. Like I'll give you a small model to help people deconstruct why they do things, because there's a process. First, you have a thought. Let's say the thoughts, I think my girlfriend cheated on me. Then it leads to a choice. Okay, she's sleeping, her phone's there. Is this my chance? And that choice leads to a decision. And if that person says, yes, my chance, then it leads, they take the decision. So they have a choice. Do I check her phone or not? If they say yeah, then that choice leads to a behavior. So they physically go and pick her phone up. And then when they look through her phone, as they're looking through the phone, they're having an experience. So the choice led to a decision, led to a behavior, and then they had the experience. They're finding some random guy there. Oh, look, let me search something to see something incriminating. So when she wakes up, I can have a go at her. And that experience produces the emotion. So you have a thought, leads to a choice, leads to a behavior, and then leads to an experience, creates an experience, and that experience produces the emotion. And the thing with the emotion is, the emotion drives the same thought. So when they put it down, they think, I didn't find anything this time. Damn it. Next time I'm going to do the same thing, because the same thought leads to the same decision, leads to the same behavior, creates the same experience, and then produces the same emotion. And that emotion drives the same thought. So they think, next time, when she stays at my house next time, I'm going to do the same thing again. Does that make sense? So that's how the circle works when you make choices.
Yeah, and I can relate that. Like, I read a book recently. It's called The Mind and the Brain. And it's primarily focused on neuroplasticity. It's by Jeffrey Schultz for people that are interested, but he talks about dealing with and I think the behaviors you've described, but he worked primarily with people suffering from OCD, and they had these compulsive behaviors. They didn't know why, but it was just people with this just kind of wanting to OCD behavior of washing their hands all the time, just washing their hands, not knowing why, but they just had this compulsion to do it. And he worked with them by helping them kind of shift the behavior pattern, or deconstruct, where he told them, anytime the thought of washing your hand comes to mind, go garden. So try to
work.
and so through and again, they weren't able to just stop doing that overnight, but through behavior patterning and practice over time, they were able to deconstruct their unhealthy behaviors into healthy forms, where the brain was able to form new neural pathways. And anytime they got that compulsive or obsessive kind of thought, they went and did something healthy, like whether it's going for a walk or gardening or something like that. So I can totally understand how, by deconstructing your thoughts,
thought process,
you can change your behaviors,
and you can change your outlooks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, from I don't know if you guys know about subconscious programming, but 95% of our programming has happened from an age of 0 to 7, and the other 5% we learn through repetition. And that's basically what you're touching on there, with the fact that if you want to learn anything new or deconstruct a bad habit, you have to do something over and over and over and over and over again until that thing becomes natural. And I think with even me and Vito discussed this on one of our podcasts, you have to actually let's say you're doing something that you really dislike about yourself, you have to actually go to the polar opposite of what you're doing, and do that constantly. So like you said, with gardening, let's say you're eating crisps every day, you have to do the polar opposite. And instead of every time you want to do the crisps, you want to eat the crisps, you do 20 press-ups. You do the polar opposite, and you consistently keep doing that until it becomes a habit, and then it becomes natural, and you do it without, you hardly ever go for the crisps. It may still be in your mind, but that you have control over it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's similar to sports, where people talk about building muscle memory. So if you're first beginning to play golf, you need to have a certain swing, and by practice and repetition, you're able to have that muscle memory that anytime you swing, you're twisting your wrist, your hip in a certain way, but you don't just pick it up right away. It takes practice, and it's the same with your brain. It's through repetition where you can have that habit forming.
No, absolutely. And obviously, learning is everything. I would advise people, if they are struggling with whatever it is they're struggling, whether it's they have a lack of confidence, they're jealous, they got insecurity, whether it's about the way they look physically, whether it's a personality trait they got, they just get angry straight away, or they're insecure about how good they are, they don't feel they're good enough to offer the skills in society to get where they want to get. Whatever it is that's bothering people, that's causing them to feel negatively, one of these negative altered states, I would advise actually studying, because I studied, and it showed it there's answers out there. You type in YouTube, whatever it is you're dealing with, and there's people out there, the information, and if you apply it, it can be life-changing. Now, learning information sounds good, right? It sounds easy, learning. But when you talk about learning, I think there's two definitions that need to be created, and a distinction as a result of that. Because if I told you, oh, I'm going to teach you how to drive a car, you never know how to drive a car, I'm going to teach you how. That's learning. That's great, because it don't require you to disconnect any of your previous beliefs. You just learn a new skill. Now, the 100%. Problem lies the other learning, which if I tell you, when you have a negative thought, you need to dismiss it and replace it with not a positive thought, don't lie to yourself, but just a better thought. If I tell you to do something like that, that requires you to unlearn something to relearn it, if that makes sense. You need to unlearn. And that's where people suffer from, because they've been a certain way. They have these perceptions, these attitudes, these hardwired belief systems, their personality. They think, this is me, this is my personality. So when they get a new information, let's say a guru says, you really need, when you feel angry, even though that person's shouting at you, you really should stay calm, even though they're in the wrong. And they're like, no, I need to react. So that information, that theoretical concept that the guru is telling them, to apply it, they need to unlearn something. They can't just apply it, new information like driving a car. No. This skill requires you to unlearn. So you need to unlearn your habit. You need to rewire your synaptic connections in your neural pathways, because you've got a neural network that teaches you, oh, someone shouts at me, I've got an automatic habitual attitude and belief system, so if someone says something to me, I'm like, what's up, what, or someone's being rude to me, I'm rude back, and I want to react differently. Well, then you need to rewire you just like you said about the neural pathways. They form when we want to learn something new, but when maybe we read something like a philosophical idea and we want to apply it, and to apply that idea we need to unlearn something. I can't, if I'm really angry and I always get angry, and the guru says you got to remain still when your girlfriend, when she snores, and you keep pushing her, hey, stop snoring, I can't sleep, stop snoring, you're blaming her. So you instead of going within and saying, do you know what, I love her, I know it annoys me she's snoring, but I love her, she's not going to stop, she's not consciously aware of it, she's not doing it on purpose to wind me up, so maybe I need to just chill out and then let my girlfriend sleep and let me get used to this. You see that? He's applying new thinking habits. He's deconstructing his old habits of pushing her. Oh, you're snoring too loud, I can't sleep. Well, you just wake her up. She's got a big day. She's got to be up early in the morning, 6 o'clock. She's got work to do. You're so inconsiderate, and you just pushed her, instead of applying what the guru said when she snores, you cuddle her. Get closer to her. Let that noise get inside you until it doesn't bother you anymore. Why don't you do a change inside you instead of changing someone outside? That's the problem in relationships. When I give relationship advice, the people, they want to change the other person because they dislike they dislike their habits. And that really annoys me. That really annoys me. Well, why don't you do a work inside you to make it not annoy you? So when she does it or he does it, then it won't annoy you. So you see, you're unlearning. And I think that's a key for some people to understand. When you're learning new information, whether it's philosophical ideas or intellectual data or theoretical concepts that you want to physically apply, and it's all mental. Remember, these are mental tools that people can use straight away. You can think about your thoughts. This is not, you don't need to go out physically do something. No, whatever habit you're trying to get rid of, what you're trying to unlearn, this is all mental rehearsal. It's cognitive abilities. So they can apply it straight away. Just next time when your girlfriend snores or whatever the bad habit is, just try and say, do you know what? Why am I trying to change her when I should be changing myself? I love her, I'm with her. Why does these little things she do wind me up? Maybe she's not winding me up. Maybe I'm winding myself up. You see, and they think about it. And that's what we teach. We teach people, no, you can't rely on something outside of you to change something inside of you. If something winds me up, that's outside of me. If my brother does something to wind me up outside, really, I'm allowing him to wind me up because the problem is internal with me. So when he does whatever he does to wind me up, and I'm like, do you know what? I think I'm being a bit judgmental here. I think I'm being a bit like a perfectionist, a bit of a critic. I'm not perfect. I do stuff to wind people up and I'm not aware of it. He might not be aware of it. I think I need to chill out. And then all of a sudden they start relaxing. And they start, the things that used to bother them don't bother them anymore. They try it a couple of times and they're like, oh, this works. Wow, if it works here, I'm going to try it in other areas of my life. And they will find it works. And that's something for people to think about.
For sure. And I think the common misconception is that, people feel that they've been a certain way their whole lives and they can't change their habits. But you can reprogram your brain or your neural pathways at any point if you put in the time and effort and deconstruct those behaviors. So often people talk about, oh, be careful of development around children because then they can't unlearn some behaviors. But at the end of the day, if you put your mind to it and you really work hard, you can reprogram and change those behavior patterns.
Absolutely. I mean, sorry to jump in, but you touched on it earlier when you said neuroplasticity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a scientific new research has showed that our brain can not just change from last week or last month or
Mm-hmm.
from last year. Imagine I've been a certain way for 30 years. I think this is me. Research, scientific research has showed, like you said, neuroplasticity. Your brain is changeable. It's not as hardwired as before. It's new research. That's why they call it neuroplasticity. You can change it, you know. So the information's out there that supports exactly what you said, you know.
Exactly,
And I
exactly. And
think, yeah,
so I think, one of the keys is changing your environment. You know, you change
that
who
is a
you
big
talk
key,
to, you
big key.
change what you do, you change your people, who you spend most of your time with. You change what you watch, you change what you potentially eat. The change in the environment is, for me, the easiest way, the easiest, because yeah, you can think about, like you said, you can think about, oh, I shouldn't be nudging my girlfriend when she's snoring. I should think about me. These are small increments that you're talking about, which obviously needs to be worked on. But the most naturalist, easiest way to do it is changing your environment, because you naturally start to, just follow what you see. If you're around like, 10 millionaires for 30 days, and, or you're around, 10 people who, are on, in the UK, we call it benefits or welfare. You're going to change naturally without even noticing, because you're going to listen to conversations, you're going to hear how they operate, you're going to see what they do. You may experience what they do too, experience in a sense of how they operate, and, their day-to-day dealings with people, and, money and business. You're going to see all of this stuff, and it's going to have an imprint on your mind. And I think it's the most easiest way to cultivate change.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that's where the concept of groupthink bias comes in, right? Where you surround yourself with a certain type of people. You're not only taking on their energy, negative or positive, you're also forming your thoughts and behaviors based on what they're doing, right? So that's great advice, I think. And I think we've touched on a lot today in terms of the subconscious mind and
Yeah,
I mean, we could,
definitely.
like I said at the beginning, we could talk on the subject for hours.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, but definitely, I was getting concerned about that as well.
But I wanted to thank you both for coming on here. I know we had a couple of hiccups along the way, but thanks for your patience. Super grateful for coming on here, sharing your very insightful information and your own perspective on things. I really appreciate it. And I guess for people that want to get a hold of you guys or find you, whether it's through social media or other forums, what is the best way to find you both?
Yeah, well, for myself, on Instagram and on Spotify, Man2Man Podcast _ after the podcast on Instagram, and just Man2Man Podcast on Spotify, where we create quality content with no filters, and we just say how it is, and how we feel, and how I like open and honest opinions. And that's what you're going to get with Man2Man Podcast. So yeah, Spotify, Instagram, that's where we are.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that as well. They want to hear, because we've touched a lot on subconscious, and in them interviews, the 2 interviews I do on the Man2Man podcast, I give a lot of helpful information to them in its resolutions, so they can apply it, cognitive ability, that they can physically start training and applying. And I give a lot of good tips in that. So if they like what we were talking about, they should go on there, give it a listen to, and they might find some helpful information.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, check it out, Man2Man Podcast. And, I definitely will too. I think, for me, I really enjoyed this conversation, got a lot out of it. And I think the message we're trying to put out there between my podcast and the work you guys are doing is very similar. It's normalizing these conversations and not hiding from them. And there's no shame if you've got certain fight or flight responses, or if you've got certain behavior patterns that you want to change, there's nothing wrong with that. The key is being able to deal with it and actively, and not let it become a huge issue.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Couldn't agree more. And thank you for having us.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely. Thank you.
We'll come back, sometime in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, let's keep the conversation going. I again appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you. Have a nice.
Well, that's the end of the episode. Thank you again for tuning in and showing your support. Until next week.